Hello, I hope you are having a good day. My name is Tohira Chatia. I originally come from Johannesburg in South Africa, and I have been living in Hanoi for over 10 years already. Today, I want to talk to you about the work that I do, which is a learning support therapist that specializes in executive functioning development and a holistic health coach. For the purpose of this presentation, though, I will just focus on my learning support work. Now, what I want to do is instead of going through a presentation slide by slide, I'm going to make the presentation available to you to go at your own pace. If you have any questions about any of the slides or any of the information provided, please reach out to me and I'm happy to clarify to you. But I would like this to feel more like a conversation that I'm having with you rather than a presentation. So I'm going to show you the slide deck and we're going to go through certain portions of it, but we're not going to go through all aspects of it from slide to slide, right? See here. All right. So the name of my platform is called Turning Point with Tohira, and you will find a lot more information about the learning support work that I do, as well as the holistic health coaching work that I do. The QR code is there so you can scan it, and I've also put the link to the website itself. Okay, so many people ask me, what do I do? And it is a niche approach in terms of the work that I do and the position that I'm in. It's somewhere in between an educator, a therapist, and a combination of those two things. So it's counseling, education, and therapy. It's a combination of like those three platforms, but it is a very particular approach and it does have an extremely practical component. A psychologist, psychiatrist, and counselor will focus primarily on how to help the person understand if it's a psychiatrist, how to understand the chemistry or the processes of the mind. If it's a counselor or if it's a psychologist, it's really working with that introspection, rebuilding your state of narrative, developing skills on how to understand yourself better, how to communicate about yourself better, and how to let things go. And every component, every single person that does any type of mental health work all has a place in this world. We need each other, and I hope there's a lot more people that come on board to support people in their development. But my work is a little bit different in the sense that when you are with somebody that has already got a psychiatrist and a psychologist and a counselor, they might be at a position where the chemistry in their brain is a little bit more regulated. They feel more connected to themselves because they've worked with a counselor for a long period, so they have a good understanding of themselves. But what they lack is actual simplified steps to firstly understand what is going on in their mind and then how to develop skills that will support them in their practical everyday life. So that's the position that I'm in that is often a little different to other people. I don't have an office that people come to. Sometimes I do work online, but preferably I like to meet them within their environment. I go to people's homes and I work with them in their home environment. And sometimes I go to people to see the context of their work environment to understand what that looks like. And oftentimes, I love it when somebody comes with an entire deck of tests and evaluations and things like that. But tests and evaluations, including a diagnosis, will give you an understanding of what the diagnosis is, either according to the DSM-5 or whatever criteria the professional was looking at. But very rarely do you have a description of what goes on in the mind. And the work that I do in terms of understanding your executive functions, which is your higher order thinking skills that are responsible for all your decision-making abilities and your sense of self, as well as your ability to regulate. Every single human being has executive functions, and a lot of us have challenges and a lot of us have strengths, but most people that don't have issues, our strengths compensate for our challenges. So we still feel like we have advocacy, we have agency, we have control, we have good self-management. Life is fun, life is okay. We can manage certain things. But when you have somebody who has either they are born with a neurobiological disorder or they have a learning challenge, or something has gone on in their lives, like a mental breakdown or a trauma of some kind, and their brain pattern shifts to something completely different, or maybe it has always been there, but life has become increasingly more difficult because the challenges within their executive functions far outweighs their strengths, and it starts to feel like their life is falling apart. And no matter how much they go through that point of reflection, it's the actual practical steps on how to simplify what you are doing, how to organize the mind, how to retain content, how to approach your work in a specific way and understand who you're talking to and how you're going to talk to them, that starts to make people feel that there is momentum being built in who I am, what I am like, and what I'm capable of doing. So when you have too many executive dysfunctions, life becomes extremely challenging. So let me just go over the foundationals and the advanced executive skills. I'm not going to go through the details of it, but it's things like impulse control. I'm going to go first through the foundational skills. Impulse control, working memory, emotional regulation, sustained attention, that is keeping focus for a long period of time, task initiative, which is the same as procrastination, and flexibility or task switching. And these are foundational executive functioning skills. And then on top of that, the more advanced ones are your planning and prioritization, which you would be amazed at how many people do not have any planning skills. And if you don't have planning skills, you will never have an internal organizational process because everything will feel like it's all over the place, and the commitments that you have will not be scaled according to what is prioritized, and you will not understand the steps that you need to do in order for you to complete them and how to measure those steps. So there are so many people that just has a release of all the stresses that they're going through when they learn how to work with and use a planner. And a lot of people don't understand how challenging this is for somebody that has executive dysfunctions, neurobiological disorders, mental health issues, or has never used a planner in their lives. I don't have an expectation that it just should be easy. Like executive functioning skills are really challenging to develop and rework from the foundation on. And then we've got things like organization, time management, goal-directed persistence. So your perseverance, your grit, that ability that you have when you are studying, when you are starting a relationship, when you are starting a new job, the ability to have the foresight to see where I am, where I'm going, and what do I need to get there is not something that is a given. And so many people are either told that they're lazy, they have all this potential, they feel overwhelmed with certain things. And psychology and psychiatry and counseling can support with a lot of trauma and regulation. However, there's often that one piece that is missing, which is the practical component of somebody to give you a strategy based on how to understand your mind. And then how do you implement a strategy relative to what you have to do? And what I like to do with the people that I'm working with, and it could be from my students all the way to my adults, what I really enjoy doing is having a scale of measurement. This is where we are at right now. These are the goals that we have based on what I'm working with you. This is the strategy on how we're going to achieve these goals. And in the next 2 or 3 months, we are going to measure what is the status of where you are at. So you always have an understanding of what we are working towards. All right. So these are just general questions that most people ask me. And that is like, how does your service help people? And I think that when I look at what I do and why I'm having this discussion with you in person, is that I can never do my work in isolation. Like you always need a tribe to be built around an individual, and you need to find the right components of what that is for that person in order for us to understand how moving forward looks like. So, being a doctor, being a parent, being an educator, being a therapist, being a coach, understanding which components are needed are really important when you are building a development pathway for somebody that is struggling, for somebody that is sick and that needs to heal. So what I do is I try to pull the whole network together. I don't like to function in isolation. If you've got a psychiatrist, a counselor, a parent, a partner, family members, I like to have an understanding where everyone is on the same page. And then I help the person to understand, where are you right now? Not where do you wish to be, not where do you want to be, but where are you right now? And how do you, at times, when life is so challenging and the only thing you see are your negative things, how do you understand the positive things that you come with too? And how do we work and build a foundation on that? So, the way my service can support people and help people is firstly to let them know that they're not alone, that the entire network around them is going to be there to support them, and they will have a very specific idea onto how to help and support themselves and what their responsibility to themselves looks like. And oftentimes, that's a very empowering thing to have. Who are my clients? My clients are pretty much everybody. I have worked from elementary all the way up to people in their 65, I think 65, 70. That 65 or 70 is the age range that I've been working. So it's been like a beautiful career over a decade to observe what the mind does in different processes of life. And obviously, everybody's mind is different, everybody's life is different, but the stories in terms of from from what you are when you are a child to what you are when you are an adult often has different components to show you. So my clients are generally everybody that needs that support to understand, what is the team that I need and what are my interventions that I need, and how do I have a measurable understanding of something that is realistic, how long is this literally going to take? And something that I can see what progress looks like from education, from having a different lens. I do enjoy working at the moment a lot with adults because the type of work that I'm doing often is available to schools, especially inclusive schools. And when children struggle with learning challenges or neurobiological disorders, they often have a built-in set of support with schools and institutions. However, what I find is when adults struggle with things that are truly outside their control, they don't have any support, they don't have any interventions, they don't have any understanding, and they often have all the weight of everything they have to face on them. So I really enjoy working with an adult and seeing what kind of team we can build around an adult with a doctor, psychiatrist, counselors, speech and language pathologist, myself, just the team that is required. And then to work with that adult in line with their marriage, in line with their family, in line with their business or their management or their job or corporation. And so I really enjoy working with adults and seeing how quick that intake process is in terms of progression. The scale of progression of what we see tends to be a lot faster with an adult than what I do with my children. That's because it's an adult brain, and an adult also has a lot more at stake, a lot more to lose when you don't develop these particular skills. So that's just a little bit of an understanding of my clients. Okay. Do I only work with neurodiverse people? No, I don't only work with neurodiverse people, but neurodiverse people do take up the bulk of my clients. I have worked with neurotypical people that have suffered from strokes or that maybe have gone through postmenopause, premenopause, going through memory problems and really struggling with having their mind be in a state of organization and maybe feeling like they've lost themselves and they need to understand how they are right now. But more than that, they need to still be functional. They need to run their household. They need to do things for their children. They need to be able to understand what groceries to purchase. They need to understand how to keep an eye on looking after themselves and being in relation to their spouses. So neurotypical people can go through issues related to internal processes of learning, and those are people that I would work with. However, the bulk of the people that I work with are people that have neurobiological disorders or are neurodivergent. Okay, and how is my service different to that of a psychologist or a counselor? Okay, so there's a lot of overlap between a psychologist, a counselor, and the work that I do. However, because I work within a network, which I love, I often would speak with the psychologist, with the counselor, with the psychiatrist, and I'll get a little bit of an understanding of what lane they are focusing on, and then understand the boundary of the places that I don't need to go to because they are covering that work. I tend to focus on a lot of practical operational processes. That is, how are you living your life every day? And how can we build in systems that are simple and that are consistent so that you can live better every day and feel like you have better self-management processes? So, a counselor or a psychologist will have conversations about the narrative of your identity. Maybe they'll talk about your family. Maybe they'll talk about trauma. It will be about looking at the background of who you are, of your whole personal life brought to a table, and then seeing how do you navigate around that and heal from it and learn from it. I don't do that. I love understanding the narrative of what that story is, but I don't do that. I'm very happy that somebody else can do that because when that happens, alongside with me developing operational skills with them, there tends to be an overlap of an alignment. And a lot of the times in a session, I would sit with somebody and something would come up of something that they're working through in therapy. It will be like, oh, I didn't approach my boss because I don't feel like I am very good at my job. I don't feel very valued. And I just think that he will never listen to my ideas. And then because I know that what that person is working on in their psychology session is that they're doing EMDR, maybe they're having an emotionally centered approach and they're working on building their self-confidence, I would say, can you go back to the work that you've done with that person? Can you go back to the strategies that that person gave you? And can we use some of these strategies to help realign that story you're telling yourself because you do have value. You are important. And what you have to say does have a direct impact to what is in your right to say in your work. So, how do the strategies from your counselor or your psychologist have an input in your operations that we can simplify and utilize now? So I would often exercise a lot of the tools and the regulation processes that the psychologist or the counselor has worked on with the person. And it still is a work in progress, but I would pull that into my session and my work with them. And I would say, how can we use that to calm you down, to change your narrative, and to give you the confidence to simplify what you need to say and then say it to the manager or say it to the person. So that's an example of how my work is different to a psychologist and a counselor and a psychiatrist, but how it is complementary to those things too. Okay, and that's just a lovely, fun graphic about all the different executive functioning skills that we have. My work is so multifaceted. I really love what I do, and I can see that it's work that so many people can benefit from, and not a lot of people know that there's a service that I offer that can support them with their practical, everyday approaches to life. It is complementary to other services. It's not either or. So hopefully I've given you a very good understanding of the work that I do and how I do it. When I meet you in person, please contact me through my website and you can go through this presentation, please contact me through my website to book a free session or an appointment with me. If you wish to understand more of what I do, if you wish me to come and speak to your family or your group of people just to have an introduction to it, and if you wish to have your first session with me, the first session is complimentary. It's called the discovery session, and I'll be happy to see you and see where you are at. So that is it from my side. I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you soon. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.